There was people there that is
got all involved in this crap. It's
embarrassing how ritualistic.
Have you seen it? It's pretty hot.
This could get violent in a heartbeat, man.
Just feel evil. Now you've got a prison that is focused on rehabilitation. This is one of 56 locations. You've got all these scooters, some stolen, no license plate, all parked illegally. And other historic hotels, they said over 1,000 people in it right now. That's what we're inviting in, guys. This is the reality of open borders.
You are doing this for all of you guys. Thank you. This is an invasion. This is an invasion.
Law and order.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me. That's just a little bit of what I do. My name is Ben Bergquam. I'm the host of Law and Border, the founder of FrontlineAmerica.com, and on the board of Frontline America Foundation, which is a nonprofit designed to support our ICE and Border Patrol officers across America. God bless. Oh, where's my ICE hat? Did I leave my ICE hat back there? Can I get my ICE hat up here? Somebody bring that up. Thank you, Sonny. Sonny, look, Sonny does everything. God bless Sonny. So I've had the opportunity to travel across the country and around the world to cover what the mainstream media would not do, and that's tell the truth. I wasn't a journalist to begin with. I was a undergrad kinesiology, exercise science. I got my MBA and was doing business for a while. But I got involved in the Tea Party years ago when that all started, and I thought Barack Obama was going to be the death of America. And then I realized the Tea Party came out of that. And the one thing I have to say thank you to Barack Obama for was giving us President Trump. Without Barack Obama, without him showing how pathetic and bad the Democrats were, we would not have a President Trump today, and we wouldn't have the MAGA movement today. So thank you, Barack Obama. By the way, we're live on social media on Real America's Voice News. Do we have any War Room posses in attendance? War Room posse fans, Steve Bannon. God bless Steve. Shout out to everybody who heard that and took the call and got out there, got precinct captains and everybody who has been involved. It is up to you. So I'm going to start at the beginning, and I call my journalism just show and tell journalism. So I'm going to show you some videos and tell you about my experience. But that's pretty much it. I felt God's call in my life from an early age when I was at, and I'll talk a little bit more about this tomorrow at Restoration Hope Church. If you guys want to come join us there, I'll be speaking there tomorrow. If you haven't been to church in a while, that is the key for everything. Get your life right with the Lord, and everything else comes from that. So God's call, my parents were missionaries in West Africa for 10 years. We lived in Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Niger. My sister was actually born in Nigeria. She's kind of like Elon Musk, white African-American. And it's funny when you see people in America complain about America that have never traveled outside this country. You have no idea how blessed you are until you've gone anywhere else. Yep. Anywhere else, even Europe, anywhere else you go in the world, within a week, you were thankful to come back to this nation. It is the greatest nation in the history of the world, and it's because of warriors like Sonny Borelli and all of those that swore that oath, took it upon themselves to defend those liberties. God gave them to us, but it's the warriors that defend those liberties that we have, and we are very close to losing them. I know you all know that. Anyone who's seen where we started. I actually grew up in California. We left Africa. We moved to California. It was supposed to be 3 weeks on furlough. Ended up being 30 years. And I grew up in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. When California was a great state before the communists and jihadists had taken it over. And I watched the slow degradation of our state. From where I grew up was a timber harvesting industry, timber harvesting community. We had 9 mills at one point. We would harvest around 250,000 acres of timber a year. Now we shut all that down because we want to protect the spotted owl. And instead of cutting down, harvesting, reusing, and guess what, lefties, they grow back. Now we burn it. We sterilize the ground, 1 million acres a year on average. And we've totally decimated that entire industry. There's only 1 mill that's barely hanging on. The other 8 are gone. And that's what the left, what I saw originally when I was a kid, I said, well, what the hell's going on here? Why do we care so much about these spotted owls? And if we actually cared about the spotted owls, why are we doing things that actually hurt them, don't actually help them? And I realized it was just about control and destroying industries that you don't like. So that was my first experience with politics. I'm not a politician, as Alex said, and I have no intention to ever be one. People always ask me that. I'm like, man, you talk about the most soul-sucking job. Shout out to you guys, Gosar. I know, I love you. I love you guys for doing it. But I look at that and I'm like, man, sitting in a committee hearing for 8 hours, I'm like, no thanks. I'd rather be in the Darien Gap all day long. But we're all called to do something in life, and that's the most important thing, is doing what God has called you to do. So this is a picture of me from back in 2017, before I really got going again. Before that picture, though, I had a couple ebbs and flows in my life, and at one point, about 10 years ago, I became a crack addict, actually about 3 years before that. And it was through self-medicating. I had gotten mono, and I had been involved in some fatal accidents, and just had some really tough stuff that had gone on in my life, and made it real easy to make excuses to self-medicate. And my wife didn't know about it. Nobody knew about it. I was living a double life for 3 years. I kept praying, though, that God would break the chains, but that my wife wouldn't find out, because I didn't want to hurt her. That was what was going on in my head. And I was at the point where I felt like I was either going to end up in prison or dead. And one night, my wife, she found a bottle of alcohol in the fridge. She actually got home early that day. And a bottle of beer that I drank the night before, and replaced it with water. That was one of my cool moves I did. And then I would replace it before she knew that it had been drank. That night, she was going to surprise me with a special meal, and she found that. And then that night, I came home and I came clean that not only was I an alcoholic again, but because our first year of marriage, I struggled with alcoholism. I quit cold turkey. She thought I was still quit, and after I finished my MBA, I decided to take a drink, and then that spiraled down into where I was, ultimately being a crack addict. And that night, I came clean. It wasn't just the alcohol; it was crack. I ripped her heart out, and I saw her face go from seeing me as the guy that God had called her to marry to very disappointed, to say the least. And I heard the Lord that night say, "You kept praying that she wouldn't know when she was the only one that needed to. Your chains are broken." And there's a verse in Peter, I'm paraphrasing now, but it's, "Husbands, honor your wives, lest your prayers be hindered." And that night I was set free. It was 9 years ago. And God put me back on this journey to where I am today. And so my first message to everyone in here, if you're a husband, honor your wife. That is besides your commitment to the Lord, that is your most important covenant that you make on this earth. And to the wives, respect your husbands, love your husbands as well. Everything else comes from that. So as a nation, again, as Christian conservative parents, great example, but everything stems from that. If we don't get God as a foundation and Christ as our direction, nothing else really matters. You can get all the politics right, you can be a conservative and say all the right things, but if we don't get that right as a nation, we will lose our blessing. So that's number 2. Go to church tomorrow. Come join us. But this was, so right after that, several months afterwards, I was at Berkeley, the Second Battle of Berkeley. I was there with several hundred other patriots that were just called. President Trump had won the election, and Antifa would start to take over our country. And simply for the audacity of wearing a Trump hat, MAGA hat, they were attacking conservatives. And I went out there with that sign. It actually had a flag on it that got ripped off, and that shirt. And within a few minutes, I got attacked. The mob, Antifa scumbags stole my hat. I went into the crowd of 100 Antifa. I got beat over the head. I got top of my ear almost cut off, and that's what I ended up looking like. And I stayed out there for about another hour and a half afterwards, and just told them that they were coward scumbags, basically, with a few more flowery language. Sorry, Pastor. But I still have that sign with the blood, and I still have that shirt, and I never washed it. And that was really the catalyst that got me to realize that if I don't do this fight, I actually went home. My daughter was 6 years old at the time. My wife was pregnant with our second daughter. I just turned my life around from crack addiction, and I went to that event. I dropped my wife off. I said, you go shopping, take Chloe, our oldest. I'll call you when I'm ready to get picked up. I ended up having to call her on someone else's phone because they broke my phone, and then we had to go to the clinic to get stitches. And that night, my daughter looked at me, her dad, never seen me hurt, and the guy that she thought was invincible, she realized is not invincible. And for years after that, every time I'd go out to a protest, she'd come and hug me and say, "Dad, don't go." And I prayed about it. I'd been involved in Fresno politics for years, and I got involved with a radio station, and I was starting, it was actually Frontline Radio at the time, and I was like, man, is this really worth it, Lord? You know, these guys are violent, they're evil, this is dangerous. I have a family, I have a new baby on the way. Am I called to do this? Is this really what you want me to do? And I heard the Lord, without a doubt, say, you are the man of your house. If the men of America don't stand up, who will? Amen. It's going to be your daughters that have to fight this and your wife that has to fight this. And so that was really the catalyst that launched me into where I am today. And going through a series of events, I started off, it was God, Family, Country, and that was basically it. And I started off in California confronting people like Gavin Newsom and Kevin De Leon and all these sanctuary supporting scumbags and all the LGBT degenerate nonsense that's going on across our country. And that was back when, you know, it was without the T, before all the insanity of chopping our kids' genitals off. Now we're here, the slippery slope of evil and sin. Now we're living in it. And so that was what launched me into it. But why, and what you're going to see tonight, what changed it for me and put me on the path of the border was meeting one angel mom initially. It was Agnes Gibney. I was speaking at a Tea Party event 9 years ago, and she came up to me and told me her story about her son being murdered, Ronald Da Silva. She was a legal immigrant, went through all the process, did it the right way, loved this country, and her son was murdered by an illegal alien, and nobody seemed to care. And then I met another angel mom, Angie Morphine, and I met more angel moms, Laura Wilkerson and Sabina Durden and Ron Rosenbeck, and all of these are Steve Rosenbeck, and all of these people that had their family members murdered by illegals, and our government cared more about the illegals. Imagine that. Look at where we're living now. This was 10 years ago almost. I thought that's just impossible. Why is the mainstream media not talking about this? Why is nobody talking about this? And so I just started doing it. I would take my phone and I would go down to the border and I would go into Mexico and I would go to the sanctuary cities in America and I would go to the leftist communist churches that pretend to be Christian, that are godless dens of Satan, and I would confront them, and I call it, like I said, show and tell journalism. I would just go show it and I'd tell you what I found. And so that's what I'm going to do for you tonight. For those that have been living under a rock, this will be very educational for you. For those that have been paying attention, it might be a little redundant, but it's where we were, where we are, and where we have to go to save this nation. That's where it started for me. But very soon, this was you saw the guy in the video initially, Oscar Blue Ramirez. He's my counterpart in Mexico. And we started going down to the Darien Gap, my friend Michael Yan, and we had several others, Chuck Holton, former Army Ranger, and Green Beret. We started going down there, and the same thing. I'm like, where's the mainstream media? We've got all these illegals coming into our country, nobody talking about it, pretending like it's, I'm gonna make a joke about that later, climate change, out of all things. Or they're just randomly coming, just like the random protests we see of 10,000 people with all the same signs that are bought off by George Soros. And so I started going down and saying, okay, clearly this isn't random. If anyone's been to Panama, and if you've ever gone east in Panama, you think south, but it's actually east, it's kind of southeast, to the Darien Gap, it is one of the most beautiful and inhospitable places on the planet. And all of a sudden we went from having one or two people that would make that journey to having hundreds and then ultimately thousands of people coming through the Darien Gap. And no one could seem to explain why. And so we went down there and started uncovering why this was happening. Now I want to tell you, I'm going to show you this first video, and I'm going to try to go through these really fast because I got a lot of them and we're limited on time. But the first time I went, we started counting the boats. And these are all boats coming downriver that had come through the Darien Gap. And this is basically their last stop on the journey before they come out in one of the indigenous villages, the Guna tribe or the Emberat tribes, depending on which route they take. And when we started, you would have one or two boats a day. This video, this was right at the height of Joe Biden, the string pullers, when they said this is all organic and these people are coming from everywhere. Secretary Mayorkas had announced what they called controlled flow, and everything exploded. This day, so this is what we saw on this day.
Somalia.
Somalia.
Number one. There's number two.
Number two. Number 5, last 4 have been mostly Venezuelan. That's what we're seeing again, mostly coming through. But you've got Chinese, you've got Bangladesh, a lot of India, Egypt. We saw one from Morocco yesterday. Crazy. All right, we're to where the river splits. Now we're going back upriver towards Bajo Chiquito. ¿Dónde son? That was number 6. Here's number 7. Number 7. Here's number 8. Number 9. ¿De dónde son? China? China and Africa. So that boat, that was number 9. China. The front half of the boat was China. The back half was out. Okay, so I just want to take a guess. The video keeps going. We don't have time to play the whole thing. You can actually go back and watch it. This is a shameless plug for Real American Voice News. If you don't follow us now, you should. You can download the app on your phone. Just go to your app store and look up Real America's Voice or America's Voice News. And then my show is called Law and Border. You can binge watch all 5 seasons. We're on our 6th season now. And you'll be able to see all of that in its entirety. I just want a guess. So the most boats we had seen before that on any of our trips was 24. Anyone want to take a guess? And not anyone who knows the answer. A guess at how many boats that day, and that was within one morning going down the river.
100.
Got 100. Anyone else? Any other guesses?
57.
116 in a 3-hour span. And that was happening every single day. And they would get to this town called Las Blancas, and every single day, this little village in the middle of the jungle with indigenous communities, all the same liberals, all the Democrats out there pretending to care about indigenous Americans and all that. This is an actual indigenous community that still exists, that basically lives off the land that's been turned into cartel smuggling. Every single day, this little village went from 200 people that live there permanently to this. It's a sea of people. Look at this. Look at this, all the way down to the river, guys. Thousands, 4,000 in one day. And Las Blancas just been completely overrun, guys. Completely overrun because of Secretary Marcus and Joe Biden. So that it's between 15 and 20, depending on the size of the people, kids or not. So, and again, that was 3 hours, and it was happening all day. So this was what was happening to these villages every single day. And within one day, that entire group of 4,000 to 5,000 had been moved on to the next camp, put on buses, shipped across Panama into Costa Rica, and then on and on and on and on. A trip that used to take over a month. Mayorkas was right. It was controlled. It took them under a week during that time period. All paid for by us, the United Nations, and our tax dollars that were going. USA, yep, welcome.us, USAID, all of that. Our tax dollars go into it. It was intentional to do exactly what we're seeing today. I'm going to finish with that. So this was another little tiny village on the other side of the Darien Gap. This is still in Panama, but it's right as you begin. So this all starts in Colombia, Capurganá and Akandi, and then they end up going to a couple other, depending on the routes again. This is UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of the most beautiful places on the planet, and these idiots like Al Gore and Greta Thunberg, who again pretend to declare. The New York Times, just to give you an example, the New York Times had been to this same beach a couple weeks before I was there. And they came back and they said it was climate change that was driving this. That was their biggest answer. But this is what they left behind. Nana Chikuna, this is on another level. And again, you hear nothing from the left on this. That's a beach. That's the beach in paradise. And it went like this for miles. Trash. So when the left talks about climate change or the environment or any of that, again, coming from a timber harvesting community, I know we got some ranchers in the house, we got a lot of friends that are in ranching and agriculture. They are liars. They do not care about the environment. They care about controlling you and pushing their agenda. That's all it is. And until we realize that, until we realize we cannot compromise with these demons anymore, we have to defeat them, then we're going to continue to compromise, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So in the jungle, again, talking about hypocrisy, we went across the Darien, we did 4 trips through the Darien, once with the flow, and then when we did that, and I realized that's hell on earth, I don't want to do that again. It took us 3 days the first time, and I said I'd probably never go back there, and within 6 months we were going back, because I asked the Centerfront guys, they're basically the Border Patrol Special Forces of Panama, who are our guides and protection on these trips. I said, has anyone ever gone reverse flow and got the intel of what's coming? And he said, shockingly, no. No other reporters had ever gone reverse and gone through the Darien against the flow of illegals. And so I was like, well, we have to do that, because that's where you get all the, you get everything. So we started this trip in one of the villages that we had ended previously, and we started going in reverse, and immediately we started getting reports that there's bandits, robbers, down the trail. And originally it was a day and a half up trail, and then it was, by the next morning, it was a day up trail, 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours, and eventually it was 15 minutes. And this was at 15 minutes. So we're 15 minutes away from these robbers, and these guys come around the corner. You don't have to understand what they're saying, but I'll translate. Basically, there's robbers, they're robbing us. This guy's from China, these guys are from Venezuela and South America.
My money.
Yeah, you speak English?
Yeah, that's
Where are you from?
From
Eritrea, middle of Africa, Islamic country in Africa. Yeah.
And then they shit us somewhere there along there, and they ask us what we have, give them what we have.
She had just been raped. And they did it in front of all of them. And her niece was with them.
That's the guy that is violating these new women. They made her get naked and open up her legs and get in the middle of everybody and show everybody how she was.
That's her niece. As a dad, I watch this stuff and it just infuriates me. I've got 3 daughters, 15, 8, and 2. I love you, Chloe, Olivia, Lillian, and my beautiful wife, Billy, who's put up with me all these years. And as a dad, I watch this stuff and I hear these idiots come out, these Democrats come out, and you've got AOC in her white pantsuit hanging on the fence at the Clint Border Patrol station and saying that they're drinking out of toilets, and they're separating families and all of this garbage that they're talking about when they're taking criminal illegal aliens and sometimes rapists and murderers out of those houses and separating those children from the demons that have been taking them into our country. And I go through something like this and I see this over and over and over and over again, and it just makes me sick. And so to anyone out there, to the left out there that pretends to be compassionate, that open borders are compassionate, I just want to watch that video and watch the rest of our videos. You're a liar. You're a liar. And that's what really pisses me off is we don't have huge budgets. Real America's Voice, we're compared to CNN or MSNBC or these scumbag news networks, we're small. But with a cell phone and the will, we went in and uncovered things that none of them chose to do, and it was choice. It was their choice not to do it because they knew if they reported on it, they'd have to either tell you the truth or lie to you, and they lie to you enough. So they just chose to not do it. So that was 15 minutes down trail. We ended up making it up, and this is what happened. They got him. play the whole thing. You can watch that later. But there were 3. They actually, as they approached them, they ambushed them. They came in from 3. The center front guys came in from one side. 3 others flanked them from the other side. As they went in, they were taking a girl's clothes off to rape her as well. And as one of the guys was running away, he shot her in the stomach. And she survived, but they ended up shooting and killing him. So we captured 2, killed 1. God bless the center front, and screw that guy. But that was happening every single day. And it's the same guys. We didn't know who it was at first. Again, nobody had done it. And so we found out later it was the Gulf Cartel who operated in Nacogli, Colombia, who orchestrated all of the travel, who actually operates in Brownsville, Texas, and in the United States, who had basically the coyotes who guided the illegals one day. On their days off, they would go up and rape and rob and murder them when they weren't working. So they were making money on both sides of it. Thank God we took those guys out. We stopped it for a while, but it's such a remote place that it continues. Anytime it continued all the way through Biden. That's what open borders invites. That's the level of evil. That girl we were planning on going all the way over the Darien. We had to get helevac'd out. We had to get her out. She survived. She actually ended up going back to Venezuela. And thank God Maduro's out of there now. Maybe they will be able to get a country. Every single person that I interviewed from Venezuela that was coming, without fail, every single person said they wanted to stay in their country, but they couldn't because of socialism, communism. They couldn't live there anymore. And that's it. They want to go back home. So there's the TDA members, the gang members here in America that just want to take advantage. They want to kill people. They're terrorists. They're part of a terrorist organization. They need to be treated like that. The rest of them, if their country is made right, millions of them will go back home on their own. You won't even have to deport them, although we should deport everyone. But that's what's happening. Now, following that path up to America, this was Brownsville, Texas, and this was the NGO. There's 9 different major NGOs in America, part of the Refugee Resettlement Program, that have realized that there's a lot of money to be made in refugee resettlement. And I have, as a husband of a wife who were refugees that came from Laos, escaped communism to get here. Family brought her over when she was 6 months old. They had to be sponsored. The family, they couldn't be a drain on our society. I am all for legal immigration. Maybe a moratorium for a period until we get rid of everyone that's here now. But there was a reason why we had the refugee process and the asylum process in America. But it's been so bastardized by these organizations that realize that they can make billions of dollars on this that it's just untenable anymore. It has to be undone. It has to be stopped. And so what we found is the same NGOs that were operating, part of the United Nations, OIM, UNHCR, they were training people. And you would ask, kind of going back to the beginning of this, how did all those people get in the jungle? And it's very simple. There is a global travel agency, a global criminal travel agency, and it's a combination of transnational criminal organizations working with NGOs and governments, global governments, to send people where they want to send them. So we're having it here in the United States. We were under Joe Biden. Europe has had it for years as well. They've been effectively Islamized. I spent 2 of my last summers in France and England. Same thing's happening there. It's basically gone. What we think is bad here, England is basically gone. I don't see it recovering. France is the same. The only wall of protection that you have right now in Europe is Hungary, Poland, and Romania to a lesser extent. Those are the only countries that have rejected mass illegal immigration under the guise of humanitarianism. It's a Trojan horse designed to destroy the West. That's what it is. It is the United Nations Great Reset, Global Reset, taking our tax dollars because they believe we're evil colonialists and redistributing it to the world. That's what all of this is about. Run by globalists, communists, and now jihadists that all operate in conjunction to destroy our countries from within. And we have politicians in our government who are behind it. So these NGOs, Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, Jewish Family Services, Bethany Christian, again, there's 9 primary and there's hundreds of subsidiaries. They ended up getting the contract. So they were in Mexico, they were in Panama, they were in Costa Rica, they were in Colombia. They were teaching people all along the way what to say, how to apply, how to fill everything out. And then once they got here, they were getting the contracts to then distribute them to your neighborhoods. The same organizations, $1,500 to $2,000, $2,500 per person, per day, every single day for 4 years, basically. Again, this is Brownsville. And we went down there, and it was like this every single day. So they would be brought across that morning. All of these folks had come in that morning. They would be put on buses, and they would be shipped or on planes at your expense and shipped anywhere in the world, or excuse me, anywhere in the country they wanted to go, all 50 states, at your expense. No vetting, and I don't have the video of it on this one, but just to give you an idea of how bad it was, I interviewed an Iranian guy who came up who loved America, actually watched War Room, said he loved Bannon, which was really funny. But he had come across illegally in Jacumba, California, and he said, I just want to tell you that there's a lot of bad guys coming with us. And he called me the next day. I gave him my contact information. He called me the next day. One of the guys I had filmed in the camp with him in Jacumba had admitted to him that he was part of the Taliban and that he had given a false name. He gave the name John Smith to Border Patrol. John Smith was brought in and sent into our country. I took that information. I had a video, very clear resolution of the guy's face, and I called the terror watch or the terror hotline. First, I called FBI terror hotline. They said the guy actually told me this. He said, excuse me, DHS hotline. He said, and it sounded like he was in some call center from the Philippines, but he said, I can't even take a report on this unless you have the guy's real first and last name, his date of birth, and where he is today. And I said, well, excuse me, sir, I don't have that because you guys had him in your custody and you sent him somewhere. What I have is his fake name, when he came across, and a video of his face. I'm sure you have some facial recognition technology that could find this guy. He wouldn't take the report. I spent an hour and a half, finally got the FBI field office in San Diego to take the report. They tracked him down. I don't know what has happened to him yet. They wouldn't give me that information. But just to give you an idea, that was an actual terrorist, jihadist from Afghanistan that had come over after Joe Biden pulled out of there, who admitted it. And the question is, how many more? The answer is, we don't know. We will find out. And unfortunately, as Tom Holman, my friend, says, we'll find out. So while that was happening, how are we doing on time, by the way? Okay. While that was happening, so what the cartels realized, using the NGOs as their middlemen, they're human traffickers. So the NGOs became basically the mouthpiece for the cartels. We actually had Border Patrol call me and say, in McAllen, Texas, the Catholic Charities there was the middleman that would actually call them and say when the loads were going to be being dropped off by the cartels so that they could have the Border Patrol Ubers for the cartels arrive to pick up the illegals that were claiming fake asylum. While that was happening, everywhere along the border, this was also happening. These are camouflage cartel members and people being trafficked, some of them that had been previously deported, some of them with really bad criminal history, some of them that are being sex trafficked, all of it. Wearing the carpet shoes, yep, good eye. So they disguise their feet. This is hidden cameras from my friend, trail cams from my friend Tim Foley in Arizona, Arizona Border Recon. This was actually just north of Sassabee. By the way, your governor is pathetic. She is owned by the cartels, as are Gallegos and the rest of the Democrat politicians in Arizona. They know this is happening. Undoubtedly, they're getting paid off. Just to make it clear, Mexico's a failed narco state. Many places in America are as well at this point. And until we have consequences for these people, it's going to get worse. So while that was happening, this was also happening. Now these are trails that we track. That Tim, his great work he's done down there, has tracked. And all day long, you get these. We actually have video of armed cartel members. Same trails. These are the NGOs. They call themselves No More Deaths. They're the humanitarians. These are out of the Good Shepherd Lutheran Church out of Green Valley, Arizona. Same trails. They would go in and put the food and water and blankets and shoes and everything else. They'd go in, replenish all of that, and then the cartels would use them. We actually got maps that had been created by the NGOs that were given to the illegals coming across by their coyotes. So a direct connection between the NGOs and the cartels, these idiots, that are out there feeding and watering these people. So that's still happening today. But thank God we have Border Patrol on the line again to actually track these guys and take them out. But this is also still happening. We have NGOs in America that are out there aiding and abetting the invasion of our country. Every single one of them should be prosecuted. The only thing so far that they've even tried was to get them for littering, which is insane, out of Tucson, and that all those charges were dropped. There has to be criminal charges on this. You cannot aid and abet the invasion of our country and get away with it. You shouldn't be able to. Well, some of them do. Many of them, like No More Deaths is a communist organization. It's funded in part, actually by Pima County. They get a grant from Pima County every year to do this, and it's all run under the Universalist Unitarian Church out of Tucson, Arizona. All of these organizations know exactly what they're doing. It's about undermining our country with their communist utopian vision because we're all so bad and our founders were so bad. We have to make up for the sins of the past by inviting in that. Yeah, by recolonizing America is what's happening right now.
Still have the water kiosks?
Yep. So all of those maps that they give out point them to the water. They actually have blue flags hanging, flying in the air, showing them where to go. And the cartels and the coyotes and the scouts. You actually have cartel scouts operating on behalf of the cartels on U.S. soil that occupy the high ground, and they keep an eye on our border patrol and tell when to go and when not to go. It's all well coordinated. This is the war, by the way, that we should be focused on. This is the most important war that America should be focused on. Thank God President Trump's in office. Thank God President Trump's in office. We would be dead right now if Kamala Harris, if they had stolen the election again. So they go from the border. They end up in places like Chicago. This is Chicago. These are 3 TDA members. They said they're from Mexico. They're Venezuelan gang members. They steal vehicles. This is a stolen vehicle out there. They take the license plates off, and CPD does absolutely nothing. So this was before President Trump took office. That warehouse behind you was one of the warehouses, one of 24 different locations that Chicago had purchased at our expense, and they were housing illegals. That one housed about 3,500 illegals. That derelict building right there and the warehouse next to it, there were 24 of them. And you saw in my video initially where I said this is one of 60 locations. Those were police headquarters where illegals were being sent at one point and filling up the police headquarters and sleeping there. So these scumbags are out there selling drugs, and we started filming them. Venezuela?
No, en México.
Mexico? Oh. Do I habla inglés?
No.
Okay, he'd lie, huh? So, Terry, you were filming the license plate. What happened?
Yeah, they told me.
Buddy Terry Newsom out of Chicago.
You?
None.
Well, no problem. No problem. You? What's wrong?
They didn't like being filmed. They invaded our country, but they didn't like being filmed when they were selling drugs in our country. Soy el portero. It's America. It's America. It's a free country, guys. It's a free country. We can film in America. So I'm gonna pause it there. God bless this guy. Anyone recognize Tom Homan? All right, so that happened. Now, people always ask me, or say things like I'm fearless and whatever, make some platitude. And I got to tell you, everything I do, and almost everything I do, there is a high level of fear in what I do. And I'm actually writing my first book. It's called Step Into Fear. The difference between me taking that fear and falling into crack addiction like I was the difference between what you do with the fear. And it can either be a demotivator or an immobilizer, or it can be a motivator. And for me, again, that journey, God took me from death to life, and it's become my motivator. So almost everything I do, there's a level of fear. It's what we do with that. And everything that I've ever done that's important in my life, the most important parts of my life have had the highest level of fear, and it's been overcoming that and conquering that, and having the courage to go through it, that have gotten me there. And so I want to encourage everybody here, if something scares you, it's probably the right thing. It's probably the right direction for you to be going. Now, not always. You got to be wise to pray about where you go. But it's a good thing to step into your fear. So that was happening every single day. We had cartel members, and they're still spread all over our country. President Trump won the election. We took back over. We stopped the bleeding at our borders. We allowed Border Patrol to do their jobs again. And then I was there with Tom Homan the first day. Under Joe Biden, I was not allowed to talk to Border Patrol. I was not allowed to talk to ICE. Everything I did, border-related, had to go through law enforcement, police. La Jolla, Texas PD was one of our first ride-alongs. And then Pima County, Sheriff Lamb, amazing guy, and amazing team down there. They were our second team. I wasn't able to communicate with Border Patrol and ICE, but they would communicate with me. And so they would send me tips and information. As soon as President Trump won, Tom Homan invited us, because of the work we had done, to go on the first operation. And we've been embedded with ICE ever since. I actually just got done with an ICE op yesterday in Phoenix. and absolute honor. And so I'm out there, I'm going and I'm thinking, okay, all these illegals were let in under Joe Biden and the Democrats. What's the plan? You know, this is a disaster. Well, almost immediately it became clear what the plan was. So this was the first day.
Illinois to arrest public safety threats. We got all of government approach. We got U.S. Marshals, we got FBI, we got ATF, we got DEA, we got ICE, we got HSI, we got them all here. So the president's plan of all of government to attack illegal alien crime in this city, we're going to address it today, starting now.
And so that began the operations, and they called them surge operations. Initially, we went out and we were sitting there. There's two ways to basically arrest and deport illegals, the two warrants system. It's the administrative warrant and the criminal warrant. Typically, criminal warrants are only used for people that you're planning on incarcerating in the United States for a longer period of time. You're not just planning on deporting. And so almost all of these are being done under administrative warrants. Well, the same activist judges that prevent people from being deported are also the ones that determine the rules in a lot of these places for how those warrants can be administered. Chicago is one of those places. It has gotten so bad that in these sanctuary jurisdictions, in LA, for example, you can't even walk on the property. You have a warrant, an administrative warrant to remove this illegal alien from our country. ICE can't even walk on their property to go get them. They have to wait for them to come out. They can see them. They can see them in their house. They could be outside of their house. They could be on their property, but they have to come off of their property for ICE to even engage them. That's how insane this is. And in Chicago, it's not quite that bad. It's getting that bad, but the same thing. They cannot go into the house without a criminal warrant. And again, criminal warrant is only used if you're going to actually prosecute that person and keep them in our jails or in our prisons. And so what ICE has to do is sit there and wait in their vehicles and do surveillance for hours and hours and hours, and wait for them to come out and have to move. Well, guess who knows that as well? The activist organizations, the NGOs that distributed the millions of illegals into all of our cities, who now run what they call rapid response networks. So every single city in America that has leftists in it have these rapid response networks. And what happens is they have people on corners that are watching for this, people in every community that are watching for this. Minneapolis is the worst, but Chicago is really bad. And as soon as they spot an ICE vehicle, they start calling everybody. They bring them in. They start knocking on everyone's door in that neighborhood. They come out with their bullhorns, say, everyone stay in your house. Do not talk to them. ICE is here. They surround the vehicles. They threaten the officers. And I realized this was happening. So we had sat on this guy. This was Chicago. This was actually the second time I went there for a different operation. And you have to go back and watch it to see what happened before this. But we sat on this scumbag, illegal alien from Mexico, cartel member, Latin Kings member, had 2 convictions, felony weapons charges convictions, and thought to be involved in murder of another illegal alien from Guatemala, of a mother while she was on her phone to her mom back in Guatemala. That scumbag was in the house. We saw him in the house, and we're sitting on the house, and we're watching him for 4 hours. And then one of our vehicles got noticed. And within 15 minutes, you had 30 of these dirtbags out here that came out, were blowing their whistles, were on their megaphones, were knocking on every door. That asshole, excuse my language, is still, I won't use that tomorrow at church, Pastor. That guy is still at large because of these traitors. Now, just this is my response to it. By the way, the only reason Chicago PD showed up was because one guy came by after we had been surrounded, Hispanic guy who was actually working for a living. He came by and said, "Thank you, I voted for this." They arrested him for impeding traffic, for stopping to tell us thank you. That's when all this happened. So yeah, you want to be pissed off, watch this. Well guys, this is the problem. I just want to make sure the media understands this is only happening because of these activists. The only reason that CPD is out here wasting all of these resources is because you have leftist activists.
What's about Chicago? This guy
threatened the federal agents, said the Second Amendment goes both ways. So this guy threatened federal agents. How many criminals do you want to keep? Rapists, murderers? How many criminals? And by the way, the guy that we were after is in the house just a couple doors down from where we're at.
Are you okay with murderers? These guys are trying to take criminals out of your neighborhood.
What's that?
Yes. Well, if you're here illegally,
so you guys get the point.
You got CPD who can't work with ICE
Yeah, that demographic has changed a little bit.
One guy who actually supported.
So he was the guy that actually supported ICE was in the vehicle at that point, and being held insanely by this. So this goes on. So they realized, I noticed this after a couple rides, this was the MO. They're going to go and obstruct ICE from doing their jobs, and they have done that to perfection. By the way, the happiest people when Renee Good and Alex Preddy were killed were the leftist activists who are doing this because they rely on victims to be able to uplift, just like George Floyd, just like all the other fake people, the criminal thugs that have been killed because of the actions that they took. They are the happiest people because they used them, and it's been effective. We have to realize that and realize that's what they're doing. That's the game they're playing. So, worst place I've ever been is this video. Minneapolis is the worst city in America, in my opinion, and it's because of three things. Every city has some combination of these. You've got criminals, you got illegal aliens, communists, and you've got jihadists. So jihadists, communists, and some level of criminal thug operation going on. Minneapolis has all three of those in the highest per capita numbers I've seen, and they all coordinate and work together. We were on operations there, and within 30 seconds of showing up to a scene, our vehicles were surrounded. We had people on almost every corner in the illegal alien neighborhoods that are looking for ICE, that are blowing their whistles. And again, let's go to the video. Time to go get a coffee. And this is what happens. Minneapolis, this is sadly what America's become because of leftist activists. We've got ICE out here doing operations, and immediately you got the whole community coming out. People just blocking traffic. Somali refugees, like Ilhan Omar. Probably illegal herself. Blocking traffic. Yeah, so I'm running out of time, guys, so I'm going to wrap it up. And so that, you get the idea. This is coordinated, it's well organized, and it's all designed for 2026. It's all about the midterm. So we'll put it on a nice little pretty bow on this right now. They don't care. All of these organizations, all of these Democrats, all of these leftists, all of these NGOs around the world and the United Nations, they do not care about illegal aliens. They care about control. They care about destroying this country and all Western countries from within. And so far, they've been very effective at it. We are very close to losing this nation. All you have to do is look at places like Dallas and look at Texas. They're focused on Islamizing Texas. You had a case that was, they're training the people on juries, the jury pools, to obstruct these cases, to let these guys off. We are very close to losing our constitutional, I would say we're post-constitutional America at this point. We no longer have equal protection under the law. Illegals have a heightened sense of protection. American citizens, especially if you do the right things, are a target now. And if we don't wake up very, very soon, actually I'm going to switch my hats real quick. God bless ICE. If we don't wake up very fast, and if we don't address this goes out to the politicians, if we don't address this head on and say, God bless ICE, God bless the work these guys are doing. These scumbag, every single illegal needs to be deported. Yes, we're going to prioritize the criminals first, but we're going to deport them all. Until, I don't even want to hear a conversation about compromise or about amnesty or about DACA. But the DACA, just so you guys don't know, my experience, DACA are the worst of them all because they're all entitled. They've all been brought here by their parents telling them that they have a right to be here. They need to go. They all need to go. I don't want to hear a thing from any politician about that. But the only way that happens is if we hold the House and the Senate, we get the rhinos out and get enough MAGA Republicans in both of them to be able to pass these things into law. Otherwise, the executive orders that President Trump has passed to stop the bleeding, that's all we have done. We're shot, we're bleeding out as a nation, and President Trump has stopped the bleeding. All they have to do is take back the House or the Senate, start their impeachment game, do all of that nonsense, undo that plug, and we're dead. And in 2028, if they get their way and they get another communist Democrat in there, this nation is dead. And if America falls, the world falls. But, going back to Pastor, God is in control in all of this, and He has called this generation, just like every generation, to stand in the gap for this nation. And that is what He is calling us to do. You guys are a part of it. I really love what you do, especially to the women. I know you guys volunteer a lot. Republican women do more, and sorry to say it, guys, they do a hell of a lot more than Republican men. Most times, when it comes to organizing, you got to get the votes, you got to get the registrations, but we need men to be men again. We need men to have the courage to stand up and say, screw you, I don't care if it hurts your feelings, this is what we're going to do, we're going to save this nation, and you either get out of the way or we're going through you. That's it, or else we're dead as a nation. One last thing, and then I'm going to wrap up because my time's done. Oh, I'm going to show you this video real quick too. So this was in Phoenix yesterday. This is my last video, and then I'll wrap up. So this was Phoenix with ICE yesterday. So this dirtbag had a final order removal. We boxed his car in. They had to break his window out. He wouldn't get out. He's honking his horn because he's been taught by the activists, this is what you do. He's on the phone. Crying like a little bee. All right, so we got him. But just to give you an idea, but it's good and bad because that operation for one guy, we had 6 officers out there. We had multiple days of surveillance on this guy for one guy that we had to wait to have him come out. What Greg Bavino was doing, it's called consensual encounter. So they would go out into the community, and this needs to be done across America. We need to go back to it. We need to say, I don't care. If you're going to try to run over an ICE agent with your vehicle, you're going to be shot, and I don't care. That's your choice. If you're going to go to a protest with a gun, now I'm all for the Second Amendment. I am a Second Amendment absolutist, but I also believe in consequences for your actions. And if you go to a protest and you obstruct a law enforcement officer, I don't care if that's local or federal, and you are armed, prepare to be shot. And I am totally fine with that. We need legislators to stand up and say, actions have consequences. The most important thing, though, again, the most important thing are these elections, but God, family, country, the rest of that. But I just want to encourage you guys, what the Democrats do, and this is my first book's going to be coming out, a whole chapter dedicated to this, so wait and read the whole chapter. I'm going to paraphrase it right now. What the enemy, the devil, does, he uses 2 primary weapons I've seen, division and distraction. For me, the distraction was crack addiction for years. I was totally immobilized. I was totally useless. The devil doesn't care if you're not doing anything for God. As soon as you step up and do it, that's when he attacks you. But keep distractions out of your life. But to the groups like this, and to everybody that's involved in politics, the worst cancer that we've allowed in, that we continue to allow in, is division. Now there are scumbag, rhino people that need to be out of politics, that need to be removed from office, that's all good. But there are way more people that we are on the same side of, that we end up bickering and bitching about stupid things that really don't matter, and we lose sight of who our enemy is, and guess what? The enemy loves that, because they don't even have to fight us, we fight ourselves. That message needs to spread across America. Get your egos out of the way, get yourselves out of the way, focus on the mission, and we will save this nation. That's it. God bless you guys. Thank you for having me.
Let's give another round of applause for Ben. Outstanding. Not all heroes wear capes, right? If you want to check your numbers over here, if you won something, it's posted for the baskets, and we've got 900 and
To everyone watching, thank you for joining us. We're going to end the live stream. Okay, thank you guys.
Oh, wait a minute, I got a joke. I got a joke. So, public service announcement here, you know, because of what's going on in Iran, you know, there might be some cybersecurity attacks. The rumor has it that we're going after our financial systems. Okay, but if you get an email that says click here for pictures of Stormy Daniels, do not click on it because it's actually going to be a virus. But if you get another email that says click here for nude pictures of Hillary Clinton, don't click on it because it's actually pictures of... Sorry. Okay, you can cut that out.